Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to some of the key champions in Saskatchewan that have really pulled up their sleeves and have done a lot of this work. And myself, as an advisor and as a researcher and scholar, you know, I have an opportunity to spend time with frontline service providers and system leaders that do the thinking, that do the work, that do the hands-on support for this initiative. And those journeys aren't easy. And there are other individuals in this room who have come out tonight that have been down this road since 2011, even dating back to 2010. I salute the good work that you've done. As I've said earlier, the movement's just started. And we're at beginning of chapter 1. But to tell you what the rest of that chapter looks like and what maybe chapter 2 and 3 and 4 look like, I wanted to introduce you and bring some very special guests here and what I consider to be actual experts in leadership, in mobilization, and actually getting the job done. So our panel, as I've already introduced to you before the break, I'm going to start off by asking each of you a couple of questions. And I really hope the audience will take back, some of the stories, some of the insight that these individuals have. Not just for the sake of what has been done so far, but what is the journey forward. And so I'd like to start off with each of you. And the first question, of course, is to you, Okimau Quayle, as a leader in a community. When the model first started to be discussed at Ochapowace, when the actual intervention circle started to come together, you started to see an importance emerge. And so my question to you based on that is, this model, what do you see as it? Why is it important to First Nations communities? As a leader, what are some of the takeaways that you have for your nation and for your people based on your experience in this model?
I want to, first of all, acknowledge our Creator for all the blessings and gifts that we have in our lives. And I want to also make mention of the tobacco that was gifted to me, my nation of Ochapowace, from Dr. Chad Nielsen. The tobacco represents honor, and it represents the sharing of information. And it is something that we use in our culture when we go to an elder, for example, and we want to ask a question or get information on a certain matter. We present the tobacco, and the tobacco is one of our medicines that we use in our ceremonies, and the tobacco takes the prayers or the information from the elder or whoever receives the information to the Creator. So it is an honor, and thank you very much, Dr. Chad, for the gift of tobacco. That shows honor and respect to our nation elders and our community. It is with great honor that I'm able to share a few words here on behalf of my nation as the leader, the chief for the Okimau Quayle, the woman chief, on behalf of my people of Ochapowace. Our intervention circle is relatively new. It is 6 months in birth. This past May, we launched the Ochapowace Intervention Circle, and it was such an honor to have Dr. Chad come to our community and share the hub model. One of our headmen or our counselors was in touch and found Dr. Chad and this model, and he introduced it to our leadership back home. And from there, things grew. And what it means for Ochapowace Nation is one of the things as a nation, we have an inherent right to self-determination. And what that means for us is when it comes to our destiny, we are in control, we are in charge. of our self-determination, our destiny in which we are going. And our community vision today to be a proud, prosperous, and unified sovereign nation. And there's some key words in that vision: proud, prosperous, unified, and also sovereign nation. And when it comes to unity, to being prosperous, to be proud, it means taking responsibility for our own issues and our concerns. And it is with that idea in mind that the things that happen back home in our community, we as leaders need to take the lead in addressing them. And as a community, as a whole, we come together to do just that. And the saying is, it takes a community to raise a child. And with that, I know if I can think back, our ancestors, our elders taught us the traditional teachings of helping one another. Everybody got involved. Everyone participated in raising the children, supporting the families. And somewhere along the road, we took a different turn or a different direction, in that we became, as departments, while we were unique in our own little way, such as the health department, the education department, the social development department, we are unique in that way, but we are also interconnected. We are interrelated. And in time, we were drifting and doing things on our own, and it became very strenuous, difficult at times, burning energy, burnouts. Our staff were burning out. And we needed to look at a different way. The teachings of our elders, we needed to bring that back and to be able to work together and not in isolation, or this is my department, ownership. We had to come together and work together in solving our community issues. And I really commend, back in 1985, we started the community healing through personal development training. And I'll even mention the Dale Carnegie Effective Speaking and Human Relations course. It taught us how to speak our mind, and however, it also talked about human relations, how we relate with one another. And that, over the years in which our community held those trainings for adults, staff, youth, it taught us about ourself. We had to look within first. Confidence, self-confidence, empowerment, and then it went outwards to others to be able to help one another. And from there, when the hub model was introduced to our community, with only 6 months into operation, to me, I found that it pulled us back together as to what our elders taught us, to work together and not apart, because we are more apt to reach our vision if we work together. The synergy, the time, the efforts to be able to work together. We are able to head into our community vision of being a proud, prosperous, and unified sovereign nation more faster. So with that, from there, today, I'm very proud. I'm very happy that we do have the program within our community. We call it the Ochapowace Intervention Circle, a circle because that is used in our culture, our way of life, the balance of the emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. And we need to ensure that all parts are in balance. And I'm just going to leave it there for now and give the other ladies an opportunity to share a little. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Ava, as a health director, as a health professional, you've seen a lot of change over the years. But with respect to the Muscat Intervention Circle or the MIC, what are some of the changes and the benefits that you've seen to your staff and others at Muscadet because of this collaborative opportunity?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and it's an honor and a privilege for me to be here and share some information about our MIC. As Chad mentioned, it's the acronym for our Muscadet Intervention Circle. So we've been practicing with this model for a little over a year and a half now, and I think the biggest benefit for us in the health center is the benefit that has been for the people in the community, for the clients that we serve, and for the people who weren't coming forward before to access the services. Now they're coming forward, and we're reaching out to the people that maybe ordinarily wouldn't have come at all to the health center, whether they're coming to see the mental health worker or the addictions worker. In some ways, there's a stigma attached to the health center that if people see you going there, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with you. So that, to me, is the biggest benefit for the community. For the staff, the biggest benefit is that it has taught them to work collaboratively, so of course that's a benefit to the client as well. So rather than going to see 2 or 3 people individually, they can work together in a case conference planning model so that they can develop a case plan together to reach their goals quicker, in a faster way. For myself, I think as a manager, it's created a bit more work because we only meet once a week, so we meet on Tuesdays. I'm not a frontline worker, but I have to manage the staff that all of us work off the sides of our desks. We all have full-time jobs. We're all very busy. In our little health center, there's only one off all of us. We only have one addictions worker, one mental health counselor. The only one that has more than one are our nurses. We have 2. But so for us, it's created more work, but that's a good thing because the people that we're reaching, like I mentioned before, are people who probably wouldn't have come in to access the services. So that's really the biggest benefit for us.
Thank you, Ava. So Jody, your career in policing has probably seen a lot of change, a lot of new innovations. In particular, the hub model. What could you share with the audience that the hub model brings to the policing profession?
For us at the Saskatchewan Police Service, I'd say the biggest thing with the hub model is instead of having just a band-aid solution to an issue, we now can put something in place that will help people going forward. So for example, when patrol deals with a call, whether it's somebody dealing with addictions or a domestic violence situation or assault has taken place, our job is to get there, make the situation safe, take care of it for that moment. We leave, we make sure everyone's taken care of, but we don't have anything in place to make sure that they're safe the next day and the next week and the next month. And that's what the hub model does. So it gives us that opportunity. It's another tool on our tool belt. You'll often hear police talk about our tools. And it's another tool for us to use to ensure that there is safety within members of our community, not just for that night, but going forward. In addition, it's increased the relationships that we have with other agencies in the community that maybe we didn't have before. Of course, we work with all the different agencies. However, this has opened up relationships and understandings. We've been able to do cross-training among agencies that helps educate all of our staff in terms of what is available to members of the community. So now when patrol is going out to a call, we now know of all of these different services that are in our community that we can try and connect people to. So the hub model is just, it added another support service for us to provide service to the community members.
Excellent. Thank you. So, I spent the first hour of this gathering, talking about the replication of the model, and we saw a map across Canada where nearly almost all provinces have application of this model. But with that, it becomes easier as the model is replicated more. As we get fidelity and we get consistency, it becomes easier to adopt the model. The question I have for each of you, and Margaret, maybe perhaps from a leadership perspective, Ava from a health and a management perspective, and Jody from a policing perspective, despite the fact that it may look like it's been an easy process, there are challenges in this. And so I would like to ask each of you to comment on some of the challenges that you foresee around this model that may help us moving forward with other collaborative models.
Well, one of the things that we have within our intervention circle is the partnerships. We have, of course, our internal department representatives from the different departments, such as the health, social development, the school, mental health, addictions, housing, as was mentioned in the presentation. We also have external partnerships that come to the table as well, and one of them being our local RCMP detachment representative, and also the our Child and Family Services agency. While we have been very fortunate to have good support from those two agencies, there's one other agency that we are still wanting to come to our table, and we haven't been able to get the probation services to our table as of to date. So, we haven't given up, and their contributions, their support, their assistance to the clients or to the families is so important, because when our clients go to the court system there, they're connected with probation services. So it's important to also bring them into the circle as well, to work as a team member. So looking at some of the partnerships is something that's going to be ongoing, and as we grow larger in support services, we will continue to do our best, and in ensuring that our people's needs are met and our families' needs are met. So the other thing is, of course, our internal team. I remember when we first start, there was hesitancy, with participating in something like this, and I guess perhaps it took a little bit of time to become comfortable with the process, and because we weren't used to that, I guess, and working together, sharing information together, and also ensuring that we are there, present. We meet every Tuesday mornings for a couple hours, and not myself. I do sit on the steering committee myself, but like the representative from the departments, and the importance of being there, at the table at times, and also having different priorities and work to get done, that becomes a challenge sometimes, and also to to be able to replace those who are no longer at the table there, the importance of the continuance of ensuring that our staff are brought to the table and they're informed and go through a little training, etc., and so that the the support program continues. It's so important as well. And the other thing that I notice is the importance of following up. At times, that things are not followed up, but they hold each other accountable and make sure the files and the working with the people are, the work that needs to get done is followed up. That's so important. And I think also the importance of the chief and council is so important, to be able to support, walk with our staff and support them, encourage them, and and praise them at times. It is a difficult challenge at times to be able to go knock at the door, but I do notice a big change, and as the RCMP, for example, they're knocking at the door this time and saying, we're here to help rather than apprehend. Same with the Child and Family Services, knocking at the door and saying, can I help? Can I come in and talk with you for a moment? I'm here to support you. And rather than apprehending the child, so we have been so used to that, and our people have become, afraid or, not wanting to see those individuals come to their home. But I do know a positive note on Child and Family Services. Our children in care has, there's a stat there already that shows that the program is working. So going from 29 children in care to 5 today, so that's a wonderful success, in such a short time. And you can see how our staff and are working closely with our people, and reconnecting. So it takes a while. The trust as well too is important, to be able to trust, our staff when we do go, or for the client to trust, our staff. That is so important, and the respect, things like that. And yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief. Eva, what kind of challenges have you encountered?
Well, in the beginning, I guess it was buy-in. The staff, many of the staff were leery about taking this on, like you said. Myself, I looked at Chad one day and thought to myself, I don't know if people are going to be shocked to see us on their doorstep. I think they're going to tell us where to go and what to do when we get there. But honestly, there hasn't been a whole lot of that, and it has been that kind of shock and awe factor. People are surprised you're there, knocking on their door, offering support. But the buy-in was a challenge in the beginning. For us, getting the same RCMP officer to come to our table every time. The continuity, that has been an issue. In the beginning, we had the same one, but he is off on sick leave or disability, and so now every time they send somebody who's ever available, that's an issue, a challenge. And the other one is staff turnover. When we have somebody who leaves and a new person comes, there has to be time to bring them up to speed, to train them, to get them to think differently than what they've been trained in the past, that we're not working territorial, we're very much opening up getting rid of the silos and all working together. So I wanted to add, it's not a challenge for us, that same as with you, that the leadership is totally on board with us. And I think that's because at the beginning we had, Chad did the training with us, and so he made sure that everybody was on board beforehand. The other co-chair is a member of the band council, so there's that, again, continuity and that liaison back and forth with chief and council, so that's a really positive thing for us. And I remember once when we were taking our training as well too, and Chad said, well, we're going to set up a session, a full day training session, or maybe it was even 2 days, and everybody's going to get together and we're all going to get to know each other. And I said, well, some of these people I've worked with for 10 years, and some of them are my cousins. I know them. I don't think we need this, but it was such a different way of learning what they had, what little bit more about their jobs than I thought I knew, and also to learn what training they had. So, for example, who has suicide training, who has mental health, who has violence, threat, risk assessment, all these different kinds of training that are a benefit to the people who go out to actually do the door knocks. So I think for a group who wanted to start up, a community who wanted to start, that's the main thing is to make sure that everybody has buy-in, everybody's on board, and everybody has commitment, because if you're not there every week, you lose that trust, and you begin to fall apart. So you really need the commitment of the staff to be there all the time. And in our community, we're lucky because I would say that we have 16 members at our table, and we have a very, very good representation of people coming every week. So that's a really good mark for us, I think.
Excellent. Jody, what do you think are some of the challenges that you've come across in your participation in this model?
So I feel like I'm going to mimic what these ladies have already said, but I think the number one challenge that we've encountered from the beginning has been resourcing. So all of the agencies at the table have provided a person to be at the hub table as a representative. However, the majority of the agencies, these reps still have their caseload back at their office. So to a certain degree, they are working off the side of their desk. They're doing a fabulous job of it, but they still have that caseload and that responsibility when they get back to their office. Luckily, our Saskatoon hub table has been able to have some consistency with our members. So some really strong relationships have been built. So there is that understanding of, like you said, understanding what different roles people have. So we get when our child and family service worker says, I need to get back and do an intake. We understand what that means. Or when schools say, I need to get back, we have a VTR. We get that. So building those relationships are so important to be able to deal with those challenges that you face at your table. The resourcing issue, I don't think is going to go away anytime soon for any of our communities. So it's just something that we need to learn to work with and to figure out how we can still give the community the tools that we have. But I think with the challenges, we've learned more that the hub model gives us that flexibility to work around those challenges. So I'd like to say that I feel, even from speaking with these ladies earlier today about the different hub models in our communities, even though we all do them a slightly different, it's still the premise of the hub model. And that's what I think is so unique about it, is that the model gives us that flexibility to make it our own based on what our community needs and based on the different agencies that are available in our community. So Ava and I were talking about some of the services that are available in their community that they don't have. So it changes the way they can provide service to people in the community. Where in Saskatoon, we are lucky. We have a lot of different community-based organizations and agencies that we can pull in to help us address some of these needs. So I think that that's a really unique thing where some people might look at it as a challenge, but I know some people like more structure around the model. I think it's a great thing. We know what the model is, but then we can customize it for our community, and we can come up with our own best practices and figure out what works for us.
Excellent, thank you. So our last question that I'd like each of you to answer before we turn it over to the audience is for you to put on your fortune teller hat. I really would like to hear from you where you think the future is going with this. And so starting with you, Margaret, is what does this model offer to the future for First Nations communities?
That's a good question. It's a very important question because one of the things within our First Nation communities is to improve our people's lives. That's one of our goals, and I feel that through this type of model, and intervention, that we are able to attend to a situation before it becomes a crisis. That's what we want to do. many of times, we are reacting, always reacting, and a lot of our staff, again, they have the burnouts, um, and another example is in our addictions program. One other staff member within another department was always wondering why they never seen this addictions worker, at work. And it was mainly because they were spending their time driving a client to a treatment center. And then once they understood that, then they realized, hey, it took a day to transport a client up north to a treatment center, and then another day back, to the office. So then they were able to understand, why this staff member was hardly seen in the office, and the workload, the clients' numbers adding up there, and wanting to see that the worker. So then we were able to make some changes there. Okay, well, see, we were able to see that after. Okay, now what can we do here so that the worker spends more time in the office rather than on the road? And lo and behold, what we did was we needed to hire a driver, some other drivers to take the client to the treatment center, so that the worker was at the office and seeing other clients. So things like that, our staff were understanding, what was going on with other workers, and now then they appreciated, the work that they were doing, the hard work that they were doing, and it's not an easy job for our workers. So at times, it is very stressful, and but when we work together, that's the important thing, is we create that energy, positive energy, and our goal is to meet the needs of the client, and do it collaboratively, work together to collectively, to work together to support our clients or the family's needs. And in the end, I feel that if we proactively do things like that, that's going to reduce the crises, and the people, the clients are going to be able to get on their, on their feet, and take their situation and take responsibility for that, and start, helping themselves. And in Cree we call wichi, so we say wichi, so we helping ourselves. So that's where we want to get our people, in the social issues, and to be able to help themselves. So it's a paradigm shift, it's a shift of thinking. As I clean my glasses and put them back on, I can see differently if they were, than if they were dirty. So, the picture is more clear. So that is what this is all about, and being able to set some goals and work together. The human services, that's what it's all about, is bringing the human services together and helping out the people. And it's all about creating, working towards healthy, happy people, and community development, and also the statistics will be lowered, such as the criminal activity, the child and family apprehensions, etc. That's going to be lowered. So another thing too is our child and family services, how it works right now, and it's changing as a result of going a different direction. But one thing I always thought about our child and family services, the service that they provide was backwards. The child needed to be apprehended, and then prevention services were provided to the family. So it's working the other way now. We're working towards prevention to prevent, the crisis from happening. So good things are happening, and definitely, we need to continue working together within our community, supporting one another, and I know that, we will move, as I mentioned, towards our community vision. So, I recommend this approach, and I've always thought about like an umbrella. We're all under an umbrella, all the different departments, but we're interconnected, we're interrelated. We need to work together, and for example, if the housing is always concerned about going into a home and noticing broken windows or holes in the walls, and and also perhaps the addictions worker constantly working with the individual. Well, if we bring everybody to the table, how can we support one another? Perhaps if we assist the family, assist the client, with the addiction part. There may be also some violence involved. The mental health will be at the table too. So if we all support one another and we each take responsibility for our own areas, then things will change for that individual or the client or the family. So good things will happen. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Eva, what does the future look like?
Well, definitely healthier community members, making the whole community healthy, working together in a collaborative approach, using the multi-sector model. I think we're seeing, like I mentioned before, we're seeing more people, and that's a good thing, increasing the caseload. Some of the workers may not think it's a good thing, we're taking on more, but it definitely is a good thing. So I think I see in the future a better community for all of us, because dealing with the individuals, trying to get at the root problem rather than just addressing the addictions or whatever it is, we need to get down to what really is affecting them. So I think that's where we're heading, and that's a good thing. And sometimes it means changing policies as well, I think, because at our place of work we have a zero tolerance for violence. So recently we had an individual who came in upset, angry at the world, and good reason to be angry, and used some verbal language, and I think that some of the staff were a bit scared, but I was able to calm this individual down and spend a good 2 to 3 hours with this person, and I think that definitely opens the door for communication, and if that person wants to come back again, they're going to feel more welcome, and how we can support them, offer them supports, whereas if we would have called the RCMP and asked them to come and remove this individual or call security, that totally wouldn't have done anything to open the lines of communication and help this individual to seek services when they need them down the road. So sometimes it's policy changes, but definitely in the future I see this hub model really, really helping and supporting our community members.
Excellent, thank you. Jody, to you.
I think it comes down to community safety. I think that's what we're looking for in the future with the hub model. I think in order to continue to strive for that, we just need, especially in Saskatoon, maybe some more education and training and awareness of the hub model in the community as well as within all of our own agencies. I think all of our agencies are quite large. Within those agencies, there's several different units. It's breaking down the silos within our own agencies, among other agencies, and getting everyone kind of on the same page as what Hub can do for people in our community. It's when we walk into that Hub table, we walk in kind of with our individual hat on. So I have the police hat on, addictions worker has that, schools. But I think it's important that we take those hats off and we're sitting at the table as people of the community and looking how we can help those people address all of those risks. So I think that is the future, and that means additional resourcing. I'm not sure where it's going to come from, but I think there does need to be committed full-time people from every agency at the Hub table. In Saskatoon, the future is beginning. We are already adding agencies to our table that weren't there before. Just last month, we added CLSD, Community Living Services Division, to our table. That's giving us the ability now to address individuals with a cognitive impairment. We didn't have that ability 2 months ago. So that's the future. Looking at adding other agencies that can assist to provide services, and continued, like I said, awareness and education of what is currently available in the community. I think at bringing up some of the systemic issues like you mentioned before to our steering committee representatives, and having some of those addressed, whether they're small or big, but start putting some things in place to address what we can within our own community. We've done a really great job here in Saskatoon of identifying some of those small issues at our table. So for example, when we first started, mental health is a big player at our table. And initially, we were offering to people in the community who were suffering from addictions or mental health that if they needed that connection, we would give them a business card and tell them to call the Sturdy Stone building and make an appointment with intake. And we'd walk away thinking, wow, we did such a great job connecting them to this phone number. And then we'd realize that A, they didn't have a phone, B, they had no way of getting down there, and C, they forgot about it the moment we left, right? So then we had to kind of look within our own table at how we were going to do that differently. And so now mental health provides adult and youth outreach workers to assist us. So we bring that outreach worker to the client in their home, in their space, and they don't have to worry about all those things that they had to worry about before. So when you showed the picture earlier of, little Johnny falling through the cracks, that's the future. It's like figuring out where that crack is and how we can fill that hole and then continue moving forward and find the next crack and just keep moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So we have a few minutes now. I'd like to turn it over to you before we close for the night and see if you do have any questions for myself or for the panel. And then we'll turn it over to Dr. Wormuth to wrap things up for tonight. So if there are any questions, there are 2 microphones there. I know it's a smaller room, but for the folks on the internet watching tonight, if you could ask your question in the microphone, that'd be most excellent. So feel free to ask any questions that you have.
Hi, thanks for coming out. All of you appreciated your perspective and your backgrounds. The question may be more suited for you, Chad, but if you others have some perspective, I'd be curious. On the risk prevention side of things, you're talking risk assessment and that sort of risk drives the rest of the hub. What do you see as an emerging technology or an emerging tool? You touched on some analytics you might be able to use, but what's coming that's going to allow you to help identify that risk and get in there at an earlier stage to help with the latter side of things?
Excellent question. I guess there's 2 things that come to mind on that. The first one is looking at data that we already have. And so the province of Saskatchewan is partnered up with several both federal and provincial partners to look at how we could take existing data from the multiple human services, find a way to link those data without, of course, breaching privacy, and then start to look at those different data sets to find out where are the elevations and risk happening, where could we perhaps deploy services where we would just wait for that risk to elevate, and then now we can perhaps look at using those data across the wider system to detect where the elevation would pop up. So some of the initiatives that come to mind, of course, would be some of the hotspotting work that's been done in the province, some of the heavy users of service pilot projects that are going on in Regina. Those are some of the things that come to mind when you think about a broader use of system data. I think with respect to the hub model, one of the innovations that we have yet to see come to fruition, but is right in front of us, is using the hub data that we have to better understand our communities. And then when we move to a technological platform, speaking to your question, if you recall the image of Saskatchewan, where we have the client would be, say, in Meadow Lake, and there's a service provider in Saskatoon, another service provider in Yorkton. To me, the risk data that we are gathering in Saskatchewan could be used and studied in an aggregate to start then identifying what are the best opportunities to mitigate those risks wherever they may be. So, for example, in practice, we would have, let's say in the first year, 300 clients in Saskatoon that were received intervention. Whereas we go to Pachinak, Saskatchewan, or we go over to Sandy Lake, there's not going to be that many clients. However, if we look at it across Saskatchewan and we use technology to then start plugging in service providers, we could actually have a system that actually predicts risk and detects that risk and deploys an intervention team, whether it's virtually or in a vehicle, and intercept that cycle before harm occurs. To me, in terms of the future, some of this work is being done. It's just a matter of connecting a few more dots and making the right connections for that to happen. But great question, and thanks for that.
Hi, thanks panel for all of your presentations. I had a question for Jody. My name's Arlene Kent-Wilkinson from the College of Nursing. Can you tell us a little bit about how do the other police see the hub, and how many other policemen are involved, and are they aware and plugging into the services as well? And are there other policemen volunteering to be a part of this, or how does that all work there?
Thanks for your question, Arlene. So right now in Saskatoon, we have one dedicated full-time hub representative, and that would be myself. So at our hub table, I'm there full-time. The other agencies at the table are there about 50% of the time. So the Saskatoon Police Service does provide a full-time person to be 100% hub dedicated. So my job is to make sure I educate the other police staff that we have of what hub can offer. So I do internal presentations to the different units within our organization to explain to them what the benefits of hub would be. Share with them the types of referrals that they could bring to me. And that's where the majority of the referrals do come. It's from the police. So in Saskatoon, 50% of the referrals are from the Saskatoon Police Service. And I get those referrals from various units, from our patrol members who attend a call at night, and like I mentioned before, they fix that situation in the moment, but they recognize that that problem is going to be there tomorrow or the next day. So they'll submit that referral to me for me to look at. And Chad had kind of mentioned earlier that the hub model does have a strict criteria that needs to be met to assure that there is an acute elevated risk. But once I do that background check, I can then present that to the hub table. So my referrals come within the police service, from patrol, from our domestic violence unit, from victim services, from various different units. So yes, absolutely, they feel the same way in terms of wanting to connect people to services. But like I mentioned, it is that education piece. We have hundreds of members, so getting everyone on the same page as to what all those services are. Prior to joining Hub, I spent 10 years in patrol, and when I joined Hub, and I've been doing this for just over 3 years now, I've gone from knowing this much to this much of what's in our community. And if you had asked me 3 years ago, like, are you aware of all the services available in Saskatoon? I would have said yes, because I thought I did, but I knew nothing compared to what I've learned from working with our partnerships with mental health and the school divisions and social services and income assistance and probation. So I have that opportunity to learn so much more. And so my job is to try and educate the rest of our service about those to make sure we're all aware of it. I think initially the hub model was to work yourself out of business. Like, that would be the goal, is that you wouldn't need a hub. You would have everyone within your own agency building those relationships with other agencies and connecting people right away. And we're starting to see that, right? So I know at our hub table, we have fewer referrals this year than we did last year. But that's only because we have some great people at our hub table that are connecting the people that are being brought to their attention to services before it even comes to the hub table. We have a great rep from the public school division that I know works very hard to make sure that they've exhausted all efforts before it comes to the table, and they do those referrals. So if it's an addictions referral, they'll connect them to that addictions worker, and they'll only bring it to the hub if it hits that acute elevated risk. So we may be lower on referrals, but it's only because we're doing a better job before it gets to the table, which is what we should all be doing, right? So I think that's a great thing. So.
Any other questions? Okay, so with that, before I turn it over to Steve, I wanted to thank the panel here. Thank you, ladies, for giving us your time, and of course, thank you to the audience here. For those of you that have logged in on the website, thanks so much for staying up late tonight. I know some of you in a different time zone, and you can go to bed right away here. But thank you so much for your time, your interest, and as we've said several times, this is the beginning of an exciting journey where we're seeing a change right before our eyes in human service delivery, in our capacity to share data, and our capacity to look upstream and help people before harm occurs. So it's been really exciting for us to be with you here tonight, and exciting for me to see the growth of your models respectively. And thank you to the Center for Forensic Behavioral Science, Justice Studies for having us, and for the broader university community. Any way that you could see yourselves coming into the model and the role of community safety and well-being, come in full force, because there's a lot of work that we have ahead. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure for all of us. Thank you so much.